If you love using the Sony ZV-E10 camera like I do, and honestly it could be any of the Sony cameras, these APS-C cameras minus the a6600, the battery life is not great. Now it is the best on the ZV-E10 comparative to like a63, a6500 cameras. Even the a64, they've made constant improvements, but it's still not quite what we will want to see it. Now, either you're lugging around a bunch of batteries or getting like a bunch of third parties, or you're basically rigging out your camera to a cinema rig using like D-taps and a bunch of other stuff. And that sucks because it gets heavy over time and it's just not a good everyday solution. So I want to cover some of my 3 favorite options that whether I'm vlogging, traveling, or whatever I'm doing, this is what I use so I don't have to stress about the battery life and I can record over the 2 hours, which is what I would usually get on the regular Sony batteries. Now, there's a lot of third-party options. For sure, the FW50 batteries, which is what goes into the ZV-E10, is not cheap. Now, $50 is not a bad price, but it's also, again, like I said, it's not cheap. So you'll look at a lot of third-party options. You'll see you can get these chargers, maybe a bunch of other accessories, 2 batteries for the price of 1 Sony battery. But that's not the recommended dosage here. Like, that's not what you want to do. Reason why: you're not going to get the best bang for your buck. You think you will, but over time you won't. Now, asterisk to that, I have not personally used or tested the Wasabi batteries, but I have a ton of creator friends that swear by them. So if you do go the third-party route, that is the most long-term solution. That's a third-party option that makes the most sense. Again, that's their recommendation. I've just rolled with a very simple setup. So which is one other Sony battery. The reason why is because I've had where the batteries will swell up, and that's pretty dangerous because if that acid gets in your camera, messes up the connectors, or it just damages the camera, you'd be surprised what can happen with a bad third-party battery. I've had other creators that I'm aware of that have had like $2,000–$3,000 cameras and they use a third-party option, even sometimes highly recommended ones, and they wreck their camera. Now that's a repair bill that you have to fit the bill for, where another extra $20, maybe $30 would have fixed the issue. It's not just the price, it's not just the reliability, it really is the performance of the Sony branded batteries that make this all the bang for the buck to begin with. You're only buying one other battery if you're going to use some of the other methods that I talk about in this particular video. But let's dive into the second version of what I actually do that I think you're gonna love. So tip number 2 is use the swap and recharge method. Now, this is something that I kind of came across in my Canon days, because those Canon APS-C cameras that was on the EF-M mount, like the M50, you have the M6, original M6 is what I had, and I love that camera. Had the original M3, loved that camera too, but the battery life wasn't great no matter which one it was. But what I found to work best was to not carry around a bunch of batteries, because knowing which one was charged, which one wasn't, it's like maybe I didn't. It's just too many variables when you're moving and on the go, especially like you're traveling. So swapping and recharging meant I get one of these, which is a K-Star adapter. That's just what I personally use. It's not what I would get if I needed to buy this stuff again. It just is what I was used to. But it's a USB rechargeable option, so I can literally just use one other Sony battery. I keep one of these already charged in the adapter, and when I deplete the one battery, I swap. Now, in my opinion, this is the most effective way to, one, travel with a camera that doesn't have great battery life. I even use this on my Sony ZV-1 with the Sony recharger and the extra battery that comes with that. And that's just about $50 altogether. And that works really well because I've swapped out my bigger, heavier battery banks for the Charmas 10,400 milliamp one. It's super small. It's not heavy at all. I have ones that have less capacity, but somehow it's heavier. So somehow they figured this out. I like it. It works well. It has the 2 USB-A's on there. It has a USB micro and a USB-C. Anything that I need to charge, even when I'm topping off my phone, it charges it. Now, most people will think, well, I don't want to carry around a battery bank either. I hear you, but with the electronics and the stuff we're doing anyway, we kind of already have these around. And if you don't use a battery bank, that's fine too. What I originally started with when I had my Canon M6 and I got one of these, but for that battery, I would just charge these off in the car as I'm driving from one location to the next. Now on the Sony branded batteries, you're going to get about 2.5 hours if you're looking at till depletion. That's about my runtime in 1080p. It's a little bit less than that if you're running at 4K. So that's probably right smack dab at about a 2-hour mark, which is not bad, but that is more consistent when you're switching over to the third-party options. And I have some of the newer ones around the office just because it came with a battery pack that I already owned. So it's not bad, but it just doesn't stretch as far. The problem really becomes in the recharging them and using them, that within 6 months to a year, you'll honestly run through that battery where it's either running into a problem of swelling or something, or you're running into the issue where it's not getting you that 2-hour stretch anymore. Now it's starting to be an hour and 45 minutes and an hour 30, and it just keeps going down. It just winds up not being beneficial to use it. So that's why I just stuck with the one solid other Sony battery. Now, if you're looking online, pro tip here, for a cheaper option than just whatever the regular price is at the time we're doing this video, you can look on Craigslist, you can look on Facebook Marketplace, you can look at a ton of different places. Mercari is one I really like looking at recently, and get one of these older Sony NEX cameras. Like, they're still the E mount, so even the lenses that come with them will still work on your Sony cameras. And they often come with an NPF W50 battery. Now, even though this is a used battery, the capacity, or like the shelf life, if you will, of that battery is still very good. And I've done this and it pans out. So if you can, get a used Sony branded battery. So it may save you a little bit on the price, but still hold on some of the capacity. Now, another quick pro tip here that I love to use, which is when I'm doing the recording so I don't run into any of this stuff, is Ecamm Live. So taken away from the SD card, and I'll use an AC power option. Now, one of the cool things is that Ecamm partnered with us on our recent videos and in our creator series that we're doing. So you can get 2 months free. Instead of like a 14 or 30-day trial that you'll usually see, you can get 2 months of a free trial with Ecamm Live, and use the promo code Diana, D-I-A-N-A, the number 2, M-O-S, like months. So Diana 2 Mas for 2 months free. So if you want to make videos like this, which I'm literally recording this in Ecamm right now, save on some SD card space by just putting it on an external drive, and then save on the battery life by using the AC power adapter. You can batch record a ton of videos this way, and it's not stressful. So if you want to check that out and you're not already using Ecamm, get you 2 months for free. Now, the third option is that you can just not rely on batteries. Don't stress over the battery life. Don't carry any battery banks, not at least in this form. My favorite option that I have not yet tested at the moment, but I cannot wait to get my hands on this, is the new tripod that Small Rig came out that includes a battery bank in it. Now, the capacity is not huge for the battery bank that's in there, but it's enough to keep you running. Now, even though in the Sony cameras they have where you can do the higher version so you don't run into any overheating, that adds extra heat, especially like when you start adding in Bluetooth and a bunch of other stuff. Now, that's not a Bluetooth setup, but the more that you're doing on the camera, you're in a hot environment, you do run a chance of potentially overheating the camera. But in most vlogging scenarios, that's not how I would use this. I would use like a regular tripod like I use for my Manfrotto Pixies, but there's always a downtime of when you're done filming, you're on the plane and you put your camera away, or you're getting ready to take a quick nap, or you're waiting to be picked up, or you're waiting for your food to come and you set your camera off to the side, whatever. There's always a downtime, and that's what I would want that tripod for, so that I can just top off my battery the same way I do with my phone. And then once it's done, you take the little cable and put it away. Plus, this works for smartphones too. So if you're into smartphone content creation, which I love this setup for this, because there are a lot of times when you're switching between your phone and your camera, this just makes sense. Now, Ulanzi did come out with a battery bank stick, like vlogging stick, that it's more tubular instead of like where it's just a small mini desk tripod thing where you can just kind of set it. That one that Ulanzi have, I like it because one, it has a larger battery bank capacity, but it's an awkward looking charging stick. I mean, it gets the job done. You could mount the little tripod feet that come with gimbals, but that just makes it a little bit more clunky, and it's a little weird. And now you are adding more weight to your setup, where if I'm going to carry something extra, I want something that's just not USB only. I would just go ahead and keep my Charmastin on me and in my bag and run it that way. And then there is one really potentially amazing option that I would like in certain scenarios, and that is the dummy battery to USB-C third-party option that I'm seeing that's just showing up on Amazon. And that's the concern with it. It's brand new. It's not by tried and true or trusted company. So I don't know if this is going to be something that doesn't do a great job with transferring energy from the battery bank to the camera, because you could run it off a battery bank or you could run it off that small rig doohickey. But I just don't know. I think this is a good option if it works. If it works long time, and then two, if it is reliable over time. Sometimes you get a batch of products that is from these random brand companies and you'll get a good batch, but then the quality control ain't there. So you get whatever you get. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And it's cheap enough that it's kind of like, this could work. This is the only option that it's a great blend of a tool. And I just don't know if it works or not. I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice a camera trying to test it and having to send my camera in for warranty. I've already done all that stuff before when I had my M50 and broke it. Not worth the cost. But I will think of a different way of approaching this that I have in mind so that I can test that specific cable. So I'll keep you updated on how that works out. Now, these are just some of the power options. If you want to take a look at some of my favorite vlogging accessories when I'm on the go, definitely check out the video coming up on the screen. I do things a little bit different with my vlogging kit. So if you're into this and you want to get into traveling more often with your camera, but not with a ton of gear, you're going to want to check this video out because there's some gems in there.